My name is Charlie, and I've spent over $1 billion on ads across my brands, clients, and agencies, and on behalf of some of the biggest companies in the world. In this video from Disruptor Academy, I reveal what most marketers never get to see. I'm going to show you a recorded Zoom call auditing a complete stranger's ad account to show them the settings and the strategies they can use to immediately boost the returns so you can see and repeat the process for yourself. There's no staging, just real process, real stakes, real money. Let's get to it. All right, so Brian, start us off with just walking through kind of how your business makes money.
Yeah, so I'm a marketing consultant, so I work with multiple clients. This one in particular is a supplement company, very niche. They are supplements for giant breed dogs, so Great Danes, Great Pyrenees, large, 100-pound plus dogs, which is again pretty charitable market. That the client they founded it when they adopted a Great Dane, then realized, oh shit, how do we actually take care of this dog? And they basically put all their effort into formulating one that was dosed properly for them. They started business about a year and a half ago. I took over the meta side of things about March. We've seen some steady progress. We went from like 3-4K a month in revenue. We're at consistently about 15K a month now the last couple of months. LTV is looking solid. It's about 250 over the last 3 months. Over the 12-month period, it's sitting about $500. And yeah, the AOV is about 100, but 95% of the revenue is from subscription. The problem where we've sort of hit the wall the last 2 to 3 months, we had a really progressive growth up until like July, mid-August, and
Mm-hmm.
then everything sort of fell off a cliff no matter what I was doing. I've always kept to try a pretty simple structure, tried adding some testing. I said their budget's pretty low. They've asked me to lower budget the last 2 months or so just because CPA has gone up. Overall, CAC of new customers has gone up. Sorry, CAC of new customers stayed about the same, but their new customers acquired has basically tailed off the last 3 months. So we went from 40 or 50
Yeah,
new
less
customers.
spend at the same CAC, less new customers. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So and yeah, so it's the math is mathing for me and trying to explain to, but also the platform CPAs, which I know, everyone knows it's always gonna be a bit of a grain of salt, but um trying to figure out where performance drop offs happen even before we drop budget as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I got a lot here, and that's great. First off, seems like a very healthy business.
Yeah.
Um, Let me give you three things to arm you in the conversation as a buyer for the business, and then let's get into the dashboard a little bit.
Yeah.
The first one, and by the way, we're working on some software that should be available very soon. We're testing it right now that'll help you give some of these answers. The first one that I want to know is how much of your revenue each month is coming from returning customers, and what's that transaction volume like? Because that blended CPA against the blended AOV is a great way of understanding where our profitability is coming from. And more importantly, that can redefine what the allowable CAC is.
Yeah. So last month it came from about 80% was returning customers on
Okay.
subscription. June, July, August, we're said more about that 50 to 60% was new revenue.
Sure.
We saw like a rapid growth in acquiring new customers. So far this month, it's been 95% new returning customers, which is again not red flags, but they're like just concerned because they're not acquiring new customers right now. Like not
Sure.
the same rate we were. So yeah,
All right, great. And that's one of the in our the software we're going to be building. That's one of the things that's really important is to
yeah,
understand that evolution, because ultimately what you're describing is the business is becoming more and more dependent on reoccurring revenue. However, that also means the blended CPA is coming down month over month over month. So the allowable cost per acquisition should be going up, which is a great argument to be introducing the idea of spending more rather than spending less, because it's not about
yeah,
are you profitable on day one. It's really about
yeah. To do
how, yeah, yeah, like
yeah,
if you're buying a cash flow cycle, If
Yeah.
the average person buys 5 times and you can break even on number three,
Yeah.
you're not spending enough. But obviously, there's money in the bank you have to fund for all of that. The second thing that I'd like to talk about is, or that we can't address here, but would be great to arm you with, is understanding how much of the what the media mix is, and is it like, are you getting, is it 100% Facebook and Instagram? Is it like 80% here, but then some on search? And really understanding what that ecosystem looks like. In the MBA program, we call it an ecosystem doc, tracking out all of the performance of each channel flowing into the next one.
Yeah.
But it also depends on what the business objectives are. It could be, and we'll get to that here in a minute, but really understanding that mix, because as you reduce the budget on Meta, it's almost assuredly going to dry up the email and search revenue that you're making, which makes
Yeah.
you even more dependent on reoccurring revenue, which means your allowable CAC, you are steering into the skid instead of fixing the problem. But it makes sense on paper because each channel works independently. But in reality, there's a big touch point of how everything works. And so I'd love to have that when you're talking with somebody.
Mm.
You, I would love for you to be able to point out, well, we went from 1,000 a day to 100 a day on Facebook or whatever.
Yeah.
This is what happened to the other channels.
Yeah.
These other channels produce more revenue. These other channels are more profitable. Every time you tell me to spend less, you're killing all of the more profitable stuff.
Yeah. And we've had that conversation, and they understand it to an extent, because we have seen, again, I'm also trying to explain to them like attribution, like that's not always perfect, especially in a
Sure.
in a modern sort of environment. So it's like what we've seen, like our the organic and direct go up last month, even though our new customer acquisition. I've seen it with multiple clients, like where they've cut spend, like another client in Q3 cut spend 50% because of cash flow, and our new customers acquired dropped 40%. I'm like, well, there's the math. Like,
Yeah.
so I mean, so they get it. Like we have I'd say Doodle's about 25% of our spend. And then even that's dried up. Again, it's correlation. Like I'm doing
Yeah.
like some true correlation there of like, yeah, we're not doing as much top of funnel, and people are not searching us, or not when they see our ad in Doodle, are not comparing us to the major brands.
Sure.
Um, so we've had those conversations as well, and it's just hard when they're again health as a business. Like their CAC has, they had we had a really steady growth up until July. Our CAC was at 52, and CAC of new customers, not just overall CAC. And starting in August, it shot up to about 74, and then it stayed about 70 since then. And like I said, what we're seeing is that customers we're acquiring are staying around better. Like they're staying longer. They're
Yeah.
repeating stay. They're maintaining their subscription. And so the quality is better. But it's just like constant back and forth of like, well, CPA is high, but revenue has stayed flat, even though CAC has stayed, like CAC new customers stayed flat the last 3 months, even though we've seen an uptick, but it hasn't like continued drastically. But the platform has changed. And
Yeah.
it lined up with it as Andromeda rolled out and things like that. So I'm guessing that
Sure.
played a factor,
There's
but
there's a there's a lot that goes into it. Also, the summer inherently is a more expensive time. Supply and demand of just inventory on the platform. Every year, summer gets more expensive.
yeah,
The amount of people where something breaks in July is basically 90% and has been for over a decade. So
yeah,
that is very much to be expected. And so got it. There's a lot of really good information here. And the reason that all really matters is also what I would love to know and begin to arm you with at the last touch point is to say, um, if the revenue floor, if the money you're making each month from returning customers continues to go up, can we begin to look at the allowable ad spend as a percentage of that?
yeah.
And a
No,
way to say what we want to do is acquire more customers than we churn. So if we get 10 new customers a week, but only 7 stop buying, we're going to continue to grow that flywheel of the acquisition of new growth. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah. And so yeah, and they're very open, and then they're one of the given the conversation, they're one of the better clients. They know they want to scale, and they're willing to scale proportionately. I think just where they're at right now, they're also getting ready to launch a new SKU in the new year. That's
Got
just
it.
kept getting delayed and delayed. So they have like their supplement is like a tablet or crushable tablet, and what they're
Mm-hmm.
seeing in their churn reports or like even like talking to customers, like their dog just won't eat it. The new
Got it.
product come out is a gravy topper, so it's going
Oh,
to
that might
be,
work.
and they've already the customers already said who've churned has said they'll come back,
Yeah.
without question. Um, but again, it's just they're still a young brand, they're first time founders. It's
Yeah. Got it.
understanding, to
Yeah,
the
all of the so what I'm hearing is they're really open to feedback and you're
yeah,
probably communicating better than I think a lot of folks are and you've got people that are willing to listen better than a lot of folks do. So Brian, you're in a good spot. I like that.
yeah,
So maybe let's dive into the dashboard.
yeah,
Now, as far as columns are concerned, I'd love to set this up in a 4PI to take a look at that, and
yeah,
then have a couple of questions just on some data you might be looking at. So
yeah,
can we set up our columns just to kind of show that 4PI up front, maybe customize,
yeah,
and we'll do a 4PI plus 2 depending on what you got. So maybe it would be great if you could just go to the right where it says 36 columns selected and just hit X on every one of those things. Just get rid of all of this stuff. Clear
yeah,
the deck. Yeah, just pop, 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 and then at some point it'll bump out a little bit, which is really annoying. Okay, cool. So let's do amount spent.
yeah. Du-du-du.
You can also just type it in the top, and it's a quick way of finding things. Then let's do frequency. So where does the machine want to spend?
Yeah,
Frequency is who's seeing those ads. CPM is what is the quality of their experience. For you, because you're really focusing on new customers as well, type in the number 1, and we're going to get the cost per 1,000 account centers. Yep.
yeah,
Boom, got it. And let's also then get the cost per purchase. So just type in purchase and it'll come in. And then if you see at the bottom, purchases, total, value, cost. Let's get the cost. I don't care about the total or the value, but
yeah.
cost, I do care. And then for this, let's also get the average purchases conversion value. So the AOV, which is third thing at the top for your key metrics,
Mm,
right
yeah,
there. Now I have a question for you.
yeah.
Do you have a new customer as a conversion item?
I don't know.
Okay. So a little bit of homework for you, Brian, I might suggest. Now there are multiple ways of doing this. You can hack it together with Zapier, or you can do it through some third-party tools. We always recommend Aimers if you're on Shopify, or if they're too expensive, I recommend Popsicle. If you tell them I sent you, they immediately know the 5 things I'm going to ask for, so they're very, very good. The onboarding process is pretty simple because I send them business every single day, and they know exactly what I want. So you're gonna be like guy 50 in the row, just like okay, it's the onboarding process from Disruptor School, got it. The last thing that I want here is let's go to custom.
Yeah,
The custom, so you see it says key metrics tracking, yeah, custom. Let's create a custom metric.
yeah,
And what I want to make is GPT. So in the combined metrics in the formula, so right below that, the little box above that one, yeah, type in GPT. There is going to be average. You just type in AV. There you go. Average purchase conversion value. Awesome. Click that. And then minus, just type in purchase, and then it'll cycle through all the things. You want cost per purchase, which is usually like the 6th or 7th thing on the list.
yeah.
Boom. There you go. By the way, it's a lot faster to do purchase than cost per. If you do cost per, you have to scroll. Apparently, in their infinite wisdom, cost per purchase is like the 837th cost, even though it's probably the most commonly clicked on button. I don't know why they do that. It's super annoying. It's not even in alphabetical order. I have no idea why. But anyway, just for what it's worth, that's a much faster way of doing it. Let's go ahead
Yeah,
and name this GPT. So this is gross profit per transaction. And this is going to be really interesting for us to understand. So GPT, yep.
yeah.
And then format, let's make this currency.
Mm,
Boom, love it. And you can make this accessible to you or to anybody, whatever you want. Um, yeah, it's up to you. And then, yeah, so let's go ahead and create metric.
yeah,
Awesome. And then let's click that in there. All right, now they've shuffled the deck here a little bit, which is also really fun. So let's put amount spent first.
yeah,
And then frequency, CPM, got it. Let's put cost per purchase after the above the AOV. Love it. That's great. One other question I have before we go: Are you sell subscriptions? Do you track subscriptions as a conversion event,
No, we just said track as a individual
as an
purchase.
individual
Yeah,
purchase?
it's
Okay.
true recharge. Yeah.
I would highly recommend homework again.
Okay.
Get the subscription event. Yeah, go ahead and hit apply. Get the subscription event tracked. So when somebody buys, some purchases are also subscriptions.
Okay.
I also highly recommend that you do that as a browser event.
Okay.
You will have some folks, like if you go to Amers or anybody selling server side events, what will happen is every time Recharge fires, it's going to fire a subscription event. But what you really only care about is how often do I sell the subscription, not how often does it rebill. Does that
Yeah,
make
yeah,
sense?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So on a server side, every recharge hit is going to be an additional subscription event. When it's a browser side, somebody has to have their browser open and hit that thing to occur. So a in the background operational subscription event just firing again, you won't get these like it won't fire the pixel. Does that make sense? Which
Yeah,
means that ads that randomly get shown to somebody within a 7-day window or a 1-day window or whatever of that subscription event getting fired won't take credit for a transaction that required no effort.
okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, no, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Awesome. And the server side stuff, if you have it, the machine will still see the people that are getting billed, but you don't need to
Yeah,
tell the machine that that means an ad did a good job because somebody didn't cancel.
yeah,
Not great. Okay, great. So with this, what I would love to do is can we go last 30 days breakdown by week? This will give
yeah.
us a
So
historic record of what's going on in the business.
yeah, so I actually just I relaunched this. Basically, this is the campaign I was really struggling. It was like
Cool.
frequency was getting super high. Everyone was
All right.
performing. But I can break down by week.
Yeah, let's break down by week. And then let's also just select those two campaigns.
Yeah.
Had delivery will be also fine. There you go. Cool. Awesome. That'll work. So the reason for this is we can get a bit of a historic record of what's going on. Also, when you do the last 30 days breakdown by week, the top line item is always something we're okay with kind of throwing out because it's never a complete data set.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to understand here is what is the cost? How are things changing? What's going on? Now,
Yeah.
if we look, first place I look is CPM. So it looks like you went from 22 to 25, 35, you're moving into the higher 30s, lower 40s. So it is getting more expensive to show your ad to people.
Yeah.
Now to me, that generally is a sign that the content is not as engaging. So it's a quality of user experience problem more than anything else.
Yeah.
Now, that also is not necessarily the quality of your content, but the quality of the experience that the machine decides, of who the machine decides to show your content to.
Yeah.
So there could be some very mixed signals between who is responding well to the business and who the ads speak to. And for
Yeah.
me, this is a big alignment issue potentially between the ads speaking to the folks who have the best experience on the in the business, and that to me makes a lot of sense if people are subscribing but they're not getting billed again and it's not tracking, or they are but it's not tracking those things. You're
Yeah.
having a whole bunch of people that are really interested in what's going on but then never go back to the website because they're just on the subscription event. So we're
Yeah.
not feeding the machine back the information that these people are getting billed on a regular basis. They're really happy with the business. So there's an issue with the machine really understanding who those highest quality customers are, so it's scrambling to find more and more people. And we can see that to a greater extent too at the cost per 1,000 account centers, which is essentially the unique CPM. How much does it cost to reach every individual person? It
Yeah.
seemed like the ABO was getting a little bit better and now it's getting a little bit worse, but it might be recovering. But let's keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
That, by the way, is just frequency times CPM, if you want to do the math and be fun with it. Um, but there's something interesting going on there. It seems like the machine is trying to figure that out. But again, the top line item we can kind of throw it out because the spend isn't high, so the frequency is less, so therefore the cost per 1,000 account centers isn't going to be as high.
Yeah.
Now, the two things that really stand out to me when we look at this, first, is the AOV is dramatically different between the two.
Yeah.
Which tells me that these are probably different offers. Is that the case?
No, it's so we have two offers, but we've never changed what we put out there. So you land in the PDP, it's one-time purchase is $99 and subscription is 79, and then we have a 3 month offer, like a 3 month supply offer.
Got it.
That's 220 on subscription as
Mm,
well. So and
got
what
it. So
obviously we're capturing when I was going through the individual orders, we're capturing more people the last couple of weeks that are buying two. So they have
yeah,
two, yeah.
got it. So then the other bit of homework I have for you, and you can do this again by yourself
Yeah.
or with a third party tool like Popsicle or Aimers.
Yeah.
Um, I want to know, what are people buying?
Yeah.
And really specifically, of all of the transactions, how many are the one sale? So the one bag, the 99. I want to know that at the ad level by day.
Yeah.
So if I have a custom conversion event designed for the purchase of the one bag, I'm
Yeah.
going to see how many of the people do that. Now, based on what you're telling me, the Meta Sales Broad ABO was essentially 100% of people buying the one bag subscription. But the new campaign is getting a lot of people potentially to, we don't know the mix, but getting some folks to buy the 3 months. Some folks are getting the sub. Some people aren't getting the
So
sub.
so this one, the people are buying the sub because it's
Yep.
79.99 is the subscription price.
Yeah, but in the new campaign, it's much higher because some of those
Yeah.
people are getting the 3 month. The
Yeah.
thing is, when we get down to the ad level, I want to know, well, if I can manufacture 150, 160 AOV because people are buying that 3 month,
Yeah.
what ads are doing that versus the other?
Yeah.
You might have one ad where 90% of the sales are getting the 1 month on a sub, and another ad where people are getting a 3 month with no sub.
Yeah.
Well, now that's also a very specific choice that you're making as a business. Do I want to get the 1 month sub because it's super cheap and I
Yeah.
just ramp up a ton of them to get the revenue floor? Or am I trying to get the 3 month on no sub because it's super profitable today? And then maybe by the end of that 3 months, they come back and get a subscription and we can kind of tack on a second offer and
Yeah.
really just work on the customer flow to turn that higher value customer into somebody that, saves moving forward.
Yeah.
So if we go into the ad level of the Meta Sales Advantage campaign, and let's get into the ad level. Yeah, here, what we're gonna find, you can get rid of that breakdown by week here real quick. What you'll find is that these ads are probably performing wildly different. Okay, yeah. So the Todd Advantage AOV is 216. The
Yeah.
Founder Rant AOV is 72.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, it's not a lot of transactions here, but let's just extrapolate it out. I mean, it's 3 or 4 sales a piece, not a terrible data set.
And these were the top performing ads that have performed heavily for us throughout the last sort of 3, 4 months as well, when
Yeah.
it relaunched as well. With the same with the Post ID. Yeah.
My point to this is those ads attract completely different customers.
Yeah.
Every time you're launching the Founder Rant, you're buying a subscriber, a
Right.
low value subscriber, and it's expensive.
Yeah.
The Todd Advantage, that might be 216 because they're taking the 3 month supply on no subscription.
Yeah.
The point is, these are very different customers. What I want to be able to do moving forward is understand, are they buying the 1 month and are they subscribing? And I'm going to assume by that if they don't buy the 1 month, they're buying the 3. And if they're like, we can start to do some of the math.
Yeah.
But then we can start to say, of all purchases, how many are 1 month? Of all purchases, how many are subs? And the real beauty of that is we could begin to do creative testing to see what do we want to do
Yeah.
as a business. Now, from what you're telling me, you have no trouble with the cash flow of the business on the customer journey,
Yeah.
but you have a problem with the cash flow of the business on today profit.
Yeah.
So for me, and I would say this for any business in Q4, I would be pushing way more on the higher AOV side. Like every time you make a sale with the Founder Rant, you're losing $100.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you actually lose money, although you do. Your GPT
In
is
the short
negative
term,
buck
yeah, it's
14.
on the balance sheet every month. Yeah, we're losing that, but the LTV will pay in 3
The
months.
LTV will pay off. The problem
Yeah.
is that LTV is not in the bank account today, which is
Yeah.
why your ad spend continues to go down.
Yeah.
I love the idea of you having a 2 month plan of just like pushing the high AOV stuff and then figuring out how to get those people to come onto a subscription, and then also having a second campaign potentially focusing purely on getting subscribers.
That
But
makes sense.
right
So
now, you don't really have the money to support 2 campaigns. So if you don't
Yeah,
have the money to support two campaigns, give me the transactions that are most profitable.
yeah. No, that makes sense. Would you separate? So right now, and show your our PDP as well. So this is our PDP. Again, it's a standard like 1 month supply, 3 month supply, defaults to
Got it.
subscription. Would you recommend like separating these out into their own like their own landing pages, their own
You
PDP?
could. I think that's an interesting test, but right now I'm far more interested in you understanding who the people are that are buying the
Yeah,
3 month supply
yeah,
and just doing all of my creative testing around all of my strategy around how do I get ads that appeal to that person?
yeah,
Because the easiest way for you to make more money is to turn off the founder brand.
yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that's necessarily the best move. It's 186 out of 500. That's a like
Yeah,
near 40% impact on the business.
yeah. No, and yeah, it is because we've had this running for about 14 days. I was looking at today. I was like, holy shit, the CPM has like skyrocketed the last few days. The plan was to turn it off, but
Yeah.
um, yeah, but again, having looking at the GPT, that it makes much more sense. Just this Todd ad has always performed well for us. It's an emotional ad. It hits people in the
Yeah.
feels, and we actually just got some UGC with his owner. That's just
Oh,
an
love
interview
that.
that our customer, our my client did, and just like and our video editor just like chopped it up great. So, and then we're hitting those emotional feels with it of like,
Yeah.
how do you make your dog live longer? I mean, it's a perfect angle.
Of course.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
So with all of this being said, Brian, I think where I'm coming from is also to tie it back, that
yeah,
founder rant is getting people who buy once and don't buy
yeah,
a lot and aren't interested in coming back because they're never coming back to your website. They're subscribed.
yeah.
That customer buys once and never engages with you again. That's not a
That's
great signal to the platform because they're tracking things that happen well after
that makes sense.
the transaction.
Yep, no, that makes
So,
sense. Yeah, as
yeah, you're
opposed to like,
teaching the machine with those to really kind of focus on the wrong person. And so I think it's fun to and maybe end this here, but my number one focus would be, can I expand on the Todd advantage? Now, for
yeah,
me, I like the idea of getting more creative around this. I would definitely take this video. It seems like it's a video. I might
yeah,
also try to grab some statics from it just to make
yeah,
it call back to the people that watched this video, finish that conversation.
yeah,
But the GPT alone says this ad is losing money. We're okay with that because of the LTV, but your client is telling you they're not willing to give you money based on LTV. So, in the interest of how do we spend more money today, you
yeah,
saying, hey guys, in 6 months we're going to be rolling in it. They're like, great, but 6 months isn't paying the bill today.
yeah,
So, we need to focus on today money until we have the luxury of focusing more on the long term money. And if we focus on the higher GPT, we'll make more money today. And then we can raise the budget to the point where we could begin to support a campaign that
yeah.
focuses on long money instead of short money.
That makes sense.
And for what it's worth, January Q1 is a great period to focus on long money. Q4
Yeah,
is a great period to focus on short money, just globally speaking.
yeah,
Um, AOVs are higher, and people in the beginning of the year are signing up for subscriptions and all sorts of other stuff. So it actually kind of lines up perfectly with what I would expect consumer behavior to do anyway.
yeah. That
So
makes sense.
yeah, man, I think that's gonna be that, Brian. Is that okay? We good?
Yeah, yeah. No, so summarize, just like clean up the tracking, focus on GPT, and then steadily scale from there. Just
Yeah.
summarize. Yeah,
I love it. And you can go into the resources and tools section to get a link to those folks so that they know you're coming from me. I think you get a little bit of a discount or something like I think I get an affiliate, but like I don't take them, I don't need the $7 or whatever from each person. Like just pass the savings on you. You guys are paying me enough anyway. Let's just, make it work. Um, but yeah, Brian, I think we're good to go.
awesome.
Fantastic.
Perfect.
And you're in a great place, Brian. I will say that. A lot of people would love to be in the situation that you're at right now. And with the relationship with the client and the ability to communicate what's going on. So um, I really appreciate that. And I hope you realize that not a lot of people have folks that are willing to listen. So
Yeah, for sure.
you're in a good spot, man. You're in a good spot. I promise you're going to be
It's
okay.
not, it's not, no, not totally crazy. It's not just, there's some small tweaks, but nothing major.
Yeah, I love it. All right, cool.